Okay. Oh, got it.
Got it. Yeah, so that's the question. So that can go to anyone. Jennifer, I know you're using the materials. Kirk, maybe you've tried out a piece and are having some success or some challenges. What's going on out there?
So this kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm answering this in a way to segue things into a question I did have, but I'll try to not do that too much.
That's
Um,
okay.
One thing that I found was it seems like, at least in my setup, I meet with students every day. We have 50-minute classes, and they're in like a very high achieving environment, right? Like they have GPA requirements for arts and academic classes in order to not get kicked out of the school, which has all sorts of issues in it.
Yeah.
But we're allowed, like, if we push, the kids will rise to the occasion. Is kind of the situation. Um, so everything I've asked, with one or two kids who kind of have been struggling a little bit, they've all met it really well. So I found they went through the level one material really quickly. So
Well,
all of my beginner classes are currently doing some of the early level two stuff, um, which, maybe that's like my kind of high achieving mindset of trying to push quicker than they should. And I definitely see some value in sitting and doing more pieces without adding more concepts. Uh, but so far, it seems to be going pretty well adding a new concept.
that's really so you've been in school a little bit longer than some other folks as well, I think.
Yeah, that's true. We're in
Uh,
week 5.5 right now.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
not too much more, but that is, pacing is something that's individual to each class, each individual student, each teacher. Um, and at face value, that's a wonderful thing. Moving through, feeling confident, almost, everyone is set up really beautifully. And my only question for you, Kirk, is I think we mentioned this, when we were at the summit when we think of our students, when we have a vision of them as a truly accomplished learner, when we're approximating what it means to really be an artist and imagining how they can accomplish that within the confines of what they're able to do technically, are you demanding as much as you can in those moments? And it's really good to sort of scaffold that in, right? You don't want to be like the conductor dictator, from the onset. But when they do play lo-fi or they do play meditation number one, my question for you is that standard of music making? We talk about vertical alignment a lot. Are they playing right together? Is that crescendo just absolutely as beautiful? Are those moments there for you?
Sometimes. Generally speaking, yes. Uh, Something that maybe this is me projecting on the students, but I teach middle school, and so you know, they've got middle school attitudes. Um, but sorry, lost my train of thought there.
That's
Something that
okay.
I've kind of wanted to be careful of is, all right, here's this easy piece. You've been playing it for a week now. You sounded really good on it yesterday. Um, Today it's not there. We've done it two or three times through, and something's not quite clicking.
Mhm.
My approach is generally like, let's see if we can get it to click if we change the context, right? So let's go to a different piece, maybe a piece you've been working on even longer. Maybe it's the new piece that I gave you yesterday. That's what you went home and practiced last night. Um, it's still demanding that musical expression, but not necessarily with attempting to with every performance. And
Right.
then if it's there, give it a chance. Um, you know, at least I feel this way in my own playing. Some days it's not, and I need to
Yeah.
change the pace for myself.
What that you just presented like the best problem anyone could have in our first, 6 weeks of instruction, which is they're just doing too good. Like we're moving too fast. you know, like which and I'm joking, but that is a wonderful thing. I think, yeah, absolutely, it's important to like analyze our own standards at every point and ask ourselves, you know, take that 2 seconds after every time they finish a phrase and say, if I were playing this on solo guitar, or if, you know, what would be different about the ways I would do it, and how would it sound? There's all the, you know, there's like my go-to things that are almost always we can improve. Big sound, soft sound, those are things, you know, quality of tone, dynamic contrast, vertical alignment, expression and comfort in playing, right? Are they responding to you as the conductor? And also, how often are we asking individuals in our ensemble to do the thing? So it might be that you're hearing this, you know, from the big group and you're really quite happy with it, but how likely is it to happen that way again is a question that we always ask ourselves. And one of the ways to ensure that is just to know that the individuals in your ensemble are able to do the thing by themselves, right? And setting up that culture. But that's such an awesome thing. I would love to see any video or sound that you have of your group. Please send our way. That would just brighten our day.
Yeah, I definitely have some.
Cool.
I was gonna say I'm taking kind of the slow approach this year. And yesterday we had that magical moment where they all played a B string in tune at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted for a little while, and it was glorious, and they weren't talking over each other. And I have a lot of students who don't know how to just like let it be, and so that was pretty special. And so they know Blue Magic today. We took out Rain, and you know, Lo-Fi is on the playlist, but
Cool.
their level of maturity to do something new is very, very low. And that's because all of my beginners are beginners, absolute pure beginners. I do this year have a level 2 class for the first time.
Oh, that's fantastic, Jennifer. Yeah.
That's not just sort of level 2 or 3, and then I have one level 3 student. He's come back again, but I have one student in there who's like brand new, but he's picking up really fast because he played piano. And so we spent the first 3 weeks with that group just kind of reviewing level 1 stuff. We're doing like landscape number 1.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, just to kind of, it's like meditation, but it's not. You know, it's
right.
still open strings, and it's got a lot of interest, and I appreciate the writing in it because it's got a lot of interest, and they're like, oh, and every part's different. And so that to me was a fun find for them to play.
Heck yeah, Phil.
Yeah. So, and working with alternation with them and getting into some of the more interesting techniques that are there as a non-guitarist teacher, having the support videos is super helpful. Like, how do we play this chord? I'm like, well, what does it say? Do we thumb? Is it a rasgueiro? Is it what, you know? And so just kind of coming up with those, because it doesn't say it anywhere in the curriculum what those techniques are exactly. There's
right.
You know, it's assumed that you're a guitarist and you know what you're talking about when it says play this way. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna guess, and then I'm gonna go look it up, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. So, Jennifer, I just want to mention, I don't think it's still up on the website anymore, but we have this totally somewhat useless old teacher manual that we had that literally spelled out, you know, word for word, this is how you teach alternation, or this is how you teach slurs. And
I'm sure I've read that somewhere. I think that's
oh no, I hope not.
You
I hope you didn't.
It's definitely still up there, I think.
There is some valuable information, but we're really trying to transition into those short videos that work for you and for students, which leads me to, I think, you know, if there's ever anything specifically that you need that's not there for you, this team can record one of those videos really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially videos in Spanish would be helpful for just right hand, left hand, harmonics, just, you know, where to put your finger on a fretted note. Like this, it's it's not hard stuff to show them, but just that support video. So how do I do that? Where do I put my finger?
Right.
That kind of, and that pitfall of don't look at your hand while you play, that, those kind of tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And, here, take your play to the next level. Don't look at your strings.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I love that you've got this advanced group going. I think that's a big moment for your program. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. So we're diving more into the, level 2, level 3, like teaching that really with good technique because if it doesn't sound good, like with tone, I stop and we go back and we fix tone, because I'm not going to spend another 6 months going back and trying to figure that one out. So
good for you.
And then I'm using some other resources that have more of like rhythm on the E string or rhythm on the B string. Just something that they're counting rhythm. That's the new focus, but tone is still the center. I think that would be beneficial if there was more of that. Not just kind of like the sight reading exercises, but just more of that,
mm-hmm.
Or I know, or, PIMA, just things that are kind of repetitive, but it gets the kids thinking and it doesn't have to be fretted, but then some fretted exercises kind of that same way, but that's a whole other thing. I do like the book, especially for my advanced class, to give them those earlier resources, flip through that. Okay, now go to Found a Friend. Okay, let's play our G scale again. And having those supplemental materials in there, that's a great start for that.
Yeah.
So that's been super helpful, because it's right there. It tells them all the, if you want to just learn on your own, you could do that.
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's really wonderful to hear. I appreciate all that feedback. And, there's going to be challenges, like Chris mentioned, there's going to be things that might not be sequenced quite right, or a missing resource here or a video there. And we really, really want to hear about it. But I want to ask, has anybody done like a small performance yet? Like played for another teacher coming in, or the parent teacher night, or anything like that?
I had my advanced class play meditation for a random teacher in the hallway. I said, here, you want to, because I had to go to the bathroom. I'm like, can you hold my door? And so I said, y'all play meditation for her while she's standing here. And so they love, that's just such a beautiful song. And they fell in love with it because I made them play it with good tone and good dynamics and all the feels. So that song will stay happy in their memory.
Oh, that's what it's all about, right?
But I've got a first performance scheduled for October 19th. And I hadn't done a fall concert before, so I'm gonna, throw a deadline out there so we can get them playing in front of people. And my hope is to be more than halfway through level 1 with beautiful sounds, right. Every song I can find, and then get into it. My classes are very different personality wise, and so I've got one class that's going to go faster than the other just because they're ready to learn. And I've got 4 life skill students, one who's nonverbal and one who can't read, who is in the 6th grade. Last time, they could read maybe on a kindergarten level. And so to be able to say, okay, this is what it looks like in guitar, and attach it to a string, and when you see this, then this is how you do it. And I told him, I said, you can now read.
Mm-hmm.
And just having those kind of personal breakthrough moments in a way that is authentic and just feels good. It's like,
doesn't it?
It's just a little, and one of the students is nonverbal, and to get them to hold the guitar and see that interaction, and they're communicating a different way. It's really beautiful.
Wow. So. That really is. Well, I actually just wrote a little piece for a colleague about why the guitar class is often a great place for students with disabilities, or students who need extra things, or neurodivergent, or whatever. But that's often the place where our counselors will decide, I think rightfully so, this might be a healthy, safe, good place for this student. And so those successes are just they're huge. So thanks for sharing that. Phil, I wonder if there's anything that's on your mind, something that might spark a conversation for us to focus on.
Yeah, maybe just real quick, just circle back on a couple of ideas. Like this idea, like of Kirk's classroom kind of moving fast in ways to kind of like slow down and explore space. Like it's a weird thing in teaching, like your energy is contagious, right? If like, I feel like if I was worried about my students getting bored with something, they were way more likely to get bored instead of just diving in and saying there is value here, follow me, you know, like it's one of those weird things, like they're just so intuitive, like students are so intuitive, it's their job to be. So I don't know, like I remember just like, ooh, are they getting bored? Are they getting bored? Are they getting bored? And the answer to that question was always yes. I also like and our South Carolina teachers didn't have a chance to work with Joe Williams, but like, I went to school for guitar. I'm not a great guitarist, but it's my instrument. I can sit in a rehearsal with Joe Williams doing Yellow Dress or something like that, like easy level 3 stuff. And the demands that he makes absolutely challenges me as a musician because he knows what demands to make and he knows the result of those demands is going to be something really beautiful. So I think it's like, it's always a worry that we're not challenging our students enough. But really like the question is like, where are we showing them value? Like in those moments. So, but it's never an easy balance. So yeah, I just, these conversations have been great. Just feedback on like how you're using the method books, what's working and what those like little tweaks that we can do. That's awesome. I guess there's a couple of questions that like, I always had in the classroom is how are we like in a very like kind of big picture way, like how are we measuring the success of our programs? Like Jennifer had a really great measure of success, that she had a student that needed an accommodation, provided the accommodation, and that student found success in her classroom on the instrument. And she was able to find an area for that student and define success for that student and follow through with that success. So I guess for me, like when I was in the classroom, I was always thinking about that idea, which is how do we define the success of our programs outside of any external expectations? I'd love to hear thoughts from anybody, everybody, maybe not at the same time, but
I had a cool experience this past weekend. I have a new to me as a student, 6th grader, but I've known this kid for a while because I'm friends with her mom. So she was taking guitar lessons with another teacher and came in and, she played like a live audition. They have to audition to get into the school, whether it's just like playing guitar or some kind of listening test. And she played something basic. I don't recall what it was, and came in this year and is in a class with everybody else who's just kind of brand new beginner, like held a guitar for the first time today kind of thing. And luckily she, a lot of this stuff was still new to her. It's like, oh, I can hold it this way and this is easier. And like, oh, I've been sitting with music in front of me, but I can't actually read it. Now I know how. So that was cool just to see her make those connections. But last weekend I was hanging out with some people, including the student's mom. And she said, oh, it's unbelievable. Yesterday, she finished her math homework and then she went over and took her guitar out of the case and just practiced. She's never done that before in 2 years of guitar lessons. She's never gone and just practiced without us bothering her about it. And I was like, oh, weird. I didn't think I don't think motivating students is necessarily my strongest suit as a teacher, as important as that is, but that was good to hear.
So cool. And it's like, and it's something that you have to stay open to, like know when you see it. And I don't know, like I've had the experience where like I have like maybe 5, 6, 7 students that have gone on to study like in the university from like the middle school that I taught at. And it's really cool. And I have great relationships with those kids and we celebrate their successes. But those are very few and far between. So I was looking more kind of at like my, I don't know, kind of holistically, how do all of my students have a relationship with music? And are they going to take it like beyond the walls of that classroom and kind of do something cool with it, or relate to it, or create a relationship with music on their own? That's a great story to hear. And it's really great that made it back around to you, because so often those things happen and they don't kind of echo back to us, and we never really kind of know that those things are happening. It's awesome.
I just have to put out there, I'm watching Nathan drive over there. I don't want you to get in a wreck or anything, but I swear it looks like you're getting pulled over because there's like blue lights flashing on the roof.
Let me see it. Here, I'll show you. This is my 7-year-old. Not doing it now.
I love it. Oh no, I love it. I'm just glad you're not on the run.
It was super artistic for a moment there. Your face was red, and I was like, "That Nathan looks great."
Yeah, well, he had it in his mouth, and I was like, "This is how people get choked," and it was lighting up his whole face. It was hilarious.
Well, that is hilarious. Wow. Well, yeah, I think. Thanks for sharing that, Kirk. I really appreciate it. I think, when we talk about motivating students, and we, again, and this is kind of a reoccurring theme for us here in this discussion, which is, what do we imagine is our measure of success at any moment? It can be through the music, or what we, our personal relationships, or different things. But I'm one of those people that really believes that our job as a teacher is precisely that, is that motivation piece. It is that engagement piece. We have to help our students learn what's motivating, because so often we look at it as something that's just like, oh, it's either there or it's not, right? That they're going to be into it or it's not. But what Phil's saying, and I think it's brilliant, and it's like, if it's important to us and we communicate that, that's teaching the student, this is something that maybe I should care about as well. And I'm not saying anyone isn't doing that, but I think it's a good thing to remember for sure. I'm going to post, Phil, is it okay if I just ask another question that I'm really interested in?
Let's do it.
So I was talking to Tony and Phil and Hector today about this phenomenon that is, it's happened every year that I've been helping in the classroom, every year that I've taught, for almost 20 years now. And that is, oftentimes the first 4, 6, 7, 8 weeks are like magic. Like the students are just right there with me because they're learning at such a high clip. They're really executing. This is new. This is exciting. And I feel like I am the best teacher anywhere. Like this could never go wrong. Like this is going to be like this the whole year. And then right around, it's usually the second week of October, there's some realization that sets in. And I can see it happen. A kid walks in the door and it's like, this is it. This is what happens in guitar every day. And it's going to be like this all the way till May. And I'm not okay with that. And so sort of collectively, we see this change in how students engage and kind of their ability to stay focused for long periods and all kinds of things like that. I have, ideas about things that can sort of combat this malaise and change things up, but I'm curious, those of us that are, we're all coming into that space. Are there solutions that you have in mind now for when that starts to settle in?
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. And I feel like for me, it's going to happen soon. I feel like trying to think that through this year for myself, just how can I grow in that as a teacher and facilitate those experiences that are just consistent. And I feel like there's some things I can do and some things I just can't. Like, it's just, sometimes the students just get tired and the year wears on, or it's not just guitar that they're getting bored with, or getting bored with other things too. I mean, they're getting worn out with their other classes, or they're just getting tired of school, or whatever the case may be. I guess that's just my perspective. That's students that I've dealt with, I think. But trying to find ways to like physically keep them, because we have 80-minute classes. I see them 80 minutes at a time every other day. It's a long time to sit and play guitar without getting up and stretching. So this year, I'm working it into my time where I just say, hey, everybody stand up for a second. Like when we move to maybe a different thing, stand up for a second and tell your stand partner that, you think they're the best stand partner that they've ever had. Just little things that just are positive, I guess, and may get a smile out of them, or come up with something that's silly to say, but just to kind of break the monotony of sitting down and going through such fine detail, because that can be so tiring for me as well. Like I need the other thing is I'm using more students this year to like conduct the class a little bit, and so using some of my advanced students that couldn't take my advanced guitar, but they were able to use my beginning guitar block, and so I use them as my TA, and they conduct the class on the first two pieces of the day, and it's just someone else that they can see besides me. And it's just a different experience, at least, I guess. I don't know if that plays into it or not. Well, it's my first year doing that. But just trying to float different experiences, I guess, maybe do some chords with them and things like that, just to kind of break things up. Sing songs, do chords, and just say that that's kind of a part of the day, just a small part of the day. I don't know, keep things exciting.
I love it. And that's really helping to break through in that classroom, beginning to end. And all of those things are wonderful. Like, to ask our students to sit there for an hour and a half without moving is just unhealthy. To ask that they stare at my face for 90 minutes for 6 weeks, every other day is too much to ask. So really, those small changes can go a long way, for sure. I think about when I talk about this and sort of that settling of the reality of the situation and motivation. A lot of times I'll start with one of those 5 elements that we talked about in both of the summits, and specifically the one about individual responsibility, personal responsibility. How do I matter? Because oftentimes that feeling that, oh, this is what we're doing, is that feeling that I'm one of a bunch of people doing the same thing, together. So why do I matter? And so I think there's lots of opportunities there to engage the individual, reiterate their purpose and importance. There's obviously solos or teacher duos or things that you can put on their stand that kind of help separate that structural, that difference. And I think you can do that really quickly, right? And it doesn't even have to be a solo, in the grandest sense of the word. It could be an 8-bar phrase with some notes that they know, and we call it a solo right now. And you're playing accompaniment or whatever it is. But that really reiterating, why are you important in this moment, can really help there. One of the biggest things is, if they go too long without performing, like really playing and engaging with their community at a performance level, we all forget why we're doing this. That's why I asked Jennifer if there had been a performance. And something as simple as that, like, hey, Mrs. Whatever, stop in and just listen to them play. And that, sparks something in the brain that connects, the effort to the outcome, and is so very important. Having a couple of those that are actually scheduled, you don't even have to tell the students. You could just say, principal, stop by, unexpectedly at some point this week, I got something to show you. Or it could be for peers and that sort of thing. And I also love to compose in this space. And again, if you're a guitarist by trade, it takes very little, 2 or 3 notes for a student to write on their own. And I mean, compose just with the guitar and be creative in that moment, not necessarily write it down, but something that they like can be made beautiful with your accompaniment, helping another student come up with something that's complementary in that moment. So flexing that creative muscle can lead to so many open-ended things and like really beautiful things that, and in my experiences, have ended up, being solo pieces that students have composed and played on concerts, or group pieces that we've composed together, because there's so much like joy and ownership of making this thing. So I think, all of the things we're talking about are really great things to break up that moment that we're inevitably going to see.
Yeah, it's weird. It's that moment where like all of the procedures and routines that made everything hum really nicely are now like creating this kind of rut where like things can't really move from them because the expectations are so rigid. I like, at my best, when I was in the classroom, I was like finding joy in my students all the time, because what better way to introduce novelty into your situation than like volatile teenagers, like they can do it for you, but like, how do we invite that, and how do we kind of like manage their voices, whether it's musical or non-musical? But I don't know, we did this exercise in South Carolina where we just kind of like talked about stories that that delighted us from our students, and I think we got some like really strange, and I remember Ben had a story that I don't think has left my head completely since, which was really strange. But like at my best, I feel like I was doing that really well. We were laughing together. Like there was jokes that brought us all together. There was like little bits, little gags, little things that we would do during rehearsals that would just provide those breaks, those mental breaks from the serious work that we were doing. And I don't know, I guess there is like an art in how you invite that and how do you manage it. But kids are really great at novelty.
Yeah, that novelty was the first word that came to my mind when we were talking about ways to break up this mid-fall slump, if we need a term for it. But just thinking about like, there's so many level 1 pieces, even going back to something that is intentionally easier that we haven't done yet. And just really kind of giving them a chance, like, oh, hey, we're going to ease up on everything. Like, there's nothing, a lot of you are probably better at this anyways than I am, but like, there's nothing to learn here. We're just making music. Right. But if that's different or if there's any way to introduce it in a different way, then you're giving them new pieces on the regular. I think that's a great way to do it, because that way they're still making music. It's not a challenge in terms of new concepts, right? It's just something different for the sake of difference.
Definitely. That novelty, that change is great. And it can totally align with all of your goals, right? It can really be a part of what you want them to learn. It can just be different. Yeah. And another thing, that's worth asking in this moment is, how aware are your students of where you want them to be and where this is all going? As human learners, it's very easy for us to engage in a moment to moment task. And many teachers really live in that space, right? That's like, here, this is this small task, but for long-term engagement, we need to know, like, what's the scope? What am I working towards? None of us, I mean, we're all like pretty high achieving, like schooly people, right? We can probably do that for longer than most people in the world. But at some point, we had to know what this is all for. And then we can punish ourselves for long periods of time, to make sure we get there. But sometimes I'll look up at a class of students and realize, like, they might know where we're going like 5 minutes from now, but they don't know like where the overarching joy and wonderful part of all this is that we're going to be, in December, or where we're going to be in the spring. So that's just something else to consider.
And I don't, like, we were talking about this earlier in the meeting too, like those activities, some of them are in the holistic lesson plans and the method books, but like little activities like that, just to, if you want to escape the rehearsal environment for a little bit and get to know your students. Some of those, like, I've done in the classroom, and they're really powerful activities for that, and totally aligned with the musical and expressive goals of the pieces themselves.
Definitely. Well, as we're starting to wrap up, please, if you've got a specific question that we haven't gotten to today, we'd love to hear from you. I asked Kirk about this, but if you would send the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, just any performance video or sound of what's going on, it helps us so much. Which is really, and it's just beautiful to see.
I was gonna say, it's really fun to get those.
Definitely. I'm just gonna read what Rhonda sent here. She's double dipping in another meeting. I love it. What an overachiever. Let's see. She's saying, it was amazing when all of my students played an E, B, and G all together and in tune. Yeah. You can see the improvement. And the great thing I love about this story, Rhonda, is it's a simple goal, one that is measurable for the classroom community, that everyone in that space could hear is it's together, it's not together, it's getting a little better. And then bam, like you said, it's right there. That's what I'm talking about when we think about engagement in that early learning portion. It's like, there's nothing better than that. And I know, Rhonda, you probably just celebrated that moment and brought it all together and applauded. And we're like, can you believe that? Can you hear that? Can we do it again? I can just see you in there doing that. So thank you for sharing that. And that's what's happening right now. We've got Jennifer, who's really talking about doing very slow, small things right now. Kirk, who's really moving pace, but really happy with what his students are accomplishing right now, and moving quickly and making a lot of beautiful music. And so on that scope, on that spectrum, it doesn't you are. As far as how much you're accomplishing, it's really that culture that you've set in your space. Are your students impressive, and are they doing beautiful things within the confines of the experiences you're creating for them? And it sounds like that's the case for all of us. And even if it's not all the time, this is a long game. It's a marathon. Right. There's going to be so many opportunities every day you have to kind of reassess, change things. Students are super resilient. We can make a mistake about a piece that we put in front of them and say, that one's not right. Let's try a different one. So certainly encourage that. Just a thumbs up. Has everyone seen, or you don't have to give me a thumbs up, but so we had the performance videos of our pieces that we performed together in South Carolina and Austin. Those are so beautiful. Y'all did such a good job. If you haven't seen that, check the ACG YouTube channel or your email. At some point, you've gotten that link. But really, really beautiful job on that.
Yeah, and just so this doesn't feel like email language, you know, we're here to like celebrate all of your successes throughout the year. And if you're having some challenges, like need a little guidance, like we're always there, like just always an email away. That's not just something that we put in an email. It's something that we believe in. And like Tony said, it's like fun for us to get those like little glimpses into your classroom and the students that you're working with. It's super fun for us. And please don't hesitate with any sharing of any kind.
Before we go, I want to share. It was great hearing everyone. This is my first year doing guitar in the classroom. Last Thursday was the first guitar club meeting, guitar ensemble meeting, elementary level. I guess a big accomplishment was we had six kids show up, which I was kind of surprised that anyone showed up. You know, did all the beginning stuff, did the first Rescatado chord from It's Guitar Time. And, you know, the first time, a couple times, played it together the first time. Kids were really enthusiastic. And I think it was a good response. Next day, even I got a couple other students. Hey, I heard y'all were doing guitar. So-and-so told me about guitar, this and that. So, you know, they took the form home, and whether or not they complete it by tomorrow, that's something else, but but at least it's a start. I teach elementary, doing it after school once a week for about an hour. So it's looking good. You know, I'm using the elementary portion of it for now. So it's looking good. You know, so it was good to hear everyone.
They are fighting against privatization. They're fighting against farmers. We have all of the South on our side. We see teachers in West
I think
Virginia,
Rhonda just popped in with her
stand
other
up
meeting.
in Arizona.
Sorry.
That's okay, Rhonda.
So it was good to hear everyone's experiences today. You know, faculty is already asking, hey, what about a performance on this date? And I'm like, oh, I don't, you know, we only met once. Like, should I do this? But I feel like at the same time, we kind of need that since it's so new. I don't think there's anything that's been in my district like that ever, you know. Say I'm in San Antonio, so it's not like Austin where, you know, guitar is everywhere, classroom, you know, so it's been good so far. And yeah.
Oh man, that makes me so happy, Chris. And I know Chris Ortiz is over there just smiling ear to ear because I know y'all got to work together.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah, man, that's really, really awesome to hear. I mean, our after school ensemble here, we just met for the first time last week. And I almost feel like I share that moment when they make their first sound together. I feel like that's always still magical. So that's so awesome that you got to have that. And they have students. You have several students who are in there, so that's an awesome start, man. And does your school, are y'all doing programs or something? I don't know if that's a thing on your campus, maybe doing something like that.
Yeah, we're doing we always do like a winter Christmas type program. So I was thinking about that for sure. You know, we're having they painted a mural on one of the buildings and they wanted to have a dedication. And they're like, well, maybe y'all can go play, or one of your groups can come play. And I'm like, I don't know if that's too soon, or if that's something that they can experience to kind of encourage them to go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just real quick for me, in December, that gives us enough time. And just having that deadline, I will make it I'll make it to where that's enough time for us. Sometimes that helps. You know, you can definitely get something together. And we can talk more if you need some ideas for what to do for something like that too. But yeah, December is totally doable though.
Yeah, the other one that they want is in October, like the first week of October, and I'm like, God,
that's too soon for me.
Too soon.
for me. Once a week after school, but yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
One other big point of celebration in my district, I didn't think about it at first because I don't see it on a regular basis. But last year, I was the only middle school guitar program in a district of like 50 schools. We have 2 more this year. So we've tripled middle school programs in a year.
Heck yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah. That was unknown to me until we went back to school. And then they were just like, oh, by the way, you know, these people are teaching guitar. Oh, great.
Well, there's an opportunity for leadership there, Kirk, as far as like kind of galvanizing that community, and so that's a beautiful thing. That's where it all starts.
Neat.
That's Georgia, Kirk, is that right?
Alabama.
Alabama, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I was in Georgia before Alabama.
So to go on what he said, like I'm in the kind of the same thing where I'm the only one doing that in elementary school. So would there be like a opportunity for further discussion, like maybe like a dedicated discussion about how to develop a program or to grow a program either within the school or within your districts? Like mine, I'm in a smaller district, but we have mariachi. We have a couple of schools that do mariachi with a couple of orchestras, but not guitar at all, as far as I know. So I mean, maybe that might be
I love to talk about that, Chris. Yeah, and that's kind of a specialized topic. It's one that oftentimes we get a lot of people in the nonprofit sector who are interested in approaching administrations and growing programs, and we get existing teachers who are just on an island who want a vertical alignment, or they want, you know, people joining them in this thing. So you know, yeah, we'll take note of that, and maybe that can be a special talk that we bring up in the next month or two. But there's certainly some ways that we've done it, although I will say it's very messy starting new guitar programs. But good relationships are key. So if you're talking to people on other campuses right now, other music teachers, your vertical aligned middle school and high school, and just making friends with them, that's the best thing you can do right now. Yeah. Well, folks, we're a few minutes past 7. I think one, I want to thank you for being on here and sharing, and for no other reason, just to see your face and hear your voice and reminisce a little bit about the summer, and really it just sounds really wonderful. What everything you're doing. I'm just, you know, really proud to be a part of this. I'll speak for everyone at ACG. It's like tremendously meaningful for us to be a part of these other programs, and you that are doing all the work out there and doing such a great job. So reach out literally anytime. You know where we are. There's going to be some edits to our method books coming around the bend. We'll be making new things, and I guess just see you real soon. What do you think, guys?
Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Nathan.
Thumbs up. Bye, y'all.
See you soon, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.